Recently, when I was listening to the radio, I hear them talking about us being the last generation to have fireflies, which means they're going extinct. And the first thing I felt was shocked since it was more or less a big part of my childhood. I've my fair share of memories of it. And another thing is I was a little skeptical. I don't know how true that is. Of course, things could have some truth, but is it being blown out of proportion? Yes or no? So I've been looking into it a bit to see if it really is or not. Welcome, guys, to another video. This is Yappy, also known as your average prodigal brother. Let me first see if I can make this. Hopefully, this place isn't looted. But we'll see. Alright, 360 no scope. Let's go, I made it. And this place was looted, bruh. Fireflies are called many things. Some of the areas are called lightning bugs, but let's be real, no one calls them lightning bugs. And if you do, you're objectively wrong. Anyways, and I don't know if they are fireflies in your area or not. But if you don't know what they are, here's what they look like. They may look a little creepy, but they're actually really chill. They're just doing their own thing. Looks it really adds to the scenery. But that's not their only purpose, just to look good, which we'll mention later on in the video. One of the problems that fireflies have to deal with because of us is the Wait, let me first deal with these gas. Get out of here. Yeah, I've been less sympathetic to gas ever since it destroyed one of my shulkers, which had 3 to 4 bastions worth of gold and loot. And I kind of lost my only snout trim from it, but we're getting too much off topic. What were we talking about? Oh, yes, light pollution. And for those who don't know what light pollution is, basically, simply put, the overusage of artificial light, and it affects the behaviors of animals since they have a circadian rhythm as well. It's basically like they're equivalent to, you know how it's strongly advised to be uh, not to go on the phone right before you sleep, since all that blue light is going to make you wake up longer, and that's because of your circadian rhythm. Now, for the larvae, it's going to hinder to find like new food and finding better environments, because in their larva stage, they are also nocturnal, so they're going to be out and about at night. Additionally, they feed on like soft-bodied snails, worms, and slugs. And since they are only like mainly active at night, they get out of underground. That's going to really hinder their growth. Now, for regular fireflies, as you know, they are also nocturnal, and they need the night to mate and lay eggs. That's why they use the light as the signal. So actually, it does a bunch of different things, but we can't really go into that. They also use night to lay the eggs. So, as you know, all this artificial light will decrease the activity for both its larva stage and its adult stage. While we're in the topic of light pollution, I was thinking I'm having trouble seeing the stars more and more compared to like 7 or 10 years ago. The stars could be fairly easy to see, and now I just can't see them as much. I don't know if you guys have any luck seeing them, or maybe it's just. Oh yeah, I forgot I have a graph. Here it is. I don't know, it's just a thought. Or more straightforward causes to the decline of it can be also be because of the habitat loss of the land conversion. Some other stuff that are not really as much are invasive species. In this case, the red imported fire ants. They act as a competition to the larvae of the fireflies, and also they do also prey onto them. While I'm not in much in a agricultural area, it will more or less apply to more rural areas, since agricultural practices can then does contribute to the decline of fireflies, mostly due to the use of pesticides and herbicides does lower its numbers, both the availability of the prey and directly toxic to them. A survey a survey was done to firefly experts in an academic journal in 2020. It's called Illuminating Pattern of Firefly Abundance Using Citizen Science Data and the Machine Learning Model. And what they did is they ranked their analysis done in North America on the greatest threats to the population of them. And in first place came habitat loss, which is land conversion, in other words, pesticide exposure, light pollution, and climate-driven factors, which have to do with climate change, since the soil in it's important since the humidity supports soft-bodied invertebrates like snails and slugs that the firefly larvae need to use as prey. While not many people, or at least I didn't know this, is the fireflies contribute a pretty good bit to the environment, since the firefly larvae, as mentioned before, they feed on pests like snails, slugs, and earthworms, which these pests damage crops and other plants, so fireflies are quite beneficial with that. And for the regular fireflies, they are preyed on birds, toads, and spiders. So both going up and down the food web, it will be drastic if we do not have them. Another thing I didn't know is fireflies, in some cases, are pollinators, since they feed on pollen and nectar on some species of them. It was pretty interesting finding out that. Fun fact, the firefly's bioluminescence is called luciferin, And believe it or not, it could take more or less 20 fireflies to provide a fatal dose of luciferin to an adult human. You have not heard this from me, and I never said anything about this. Here are some tips that, like minor things that maybe you could do, because I know these things won't be solved all at once, and nobody can expect another person to make life-changing things. But as suggestions, you could close, if you have binders, you could close the binders at night so light doesn't get out of the house as much. You could, I know this may sound obvious, but you could turn off the lights when it's not being used. And you could also turn off the lights at night, since I know I'm more or less guilty of that, since because it might look less likely to get robbed if they think people are there, but once in a while, I think slowly but surely, it will make a small difference. This video was more or less a change of pace on what I normally do. Who knows if I'll do more or less of these videos? We'll see in the future. Anyways, this is Yappy, and hope you enjoyed today's video. Take care. Unfortunately, my conclusion somewhere, I accidentally cut it out somewhere, and I don't feel like redoing and editing this stuff all over. So I'll just be telling you guys again. The conclusion was for the big question on if fireflies we won't see in the next generation, it I think it was overshot. And although it is concerning for the firefly population, I don't think it's going extinct in that amount of time. But I will admit, if we're still gonna continue down this route, then yes, maybe 2 or 3 generations, they may really be extinct. And in somewhat, I'm quite grateful they gave that eye-catching statement, since I probably wouldn't have looked as much as if they're them just saying some kind of sublime statement on the firefly species. So, in the end, yeah, some firefly populations won't be reacting the same in like all these different climates and regions. That's why the scientists professionals rely on the citizen scientists to collect the data, because it's a lot easier to gather all of that information from all different areas. Since some species are able to adapt to the dry environment, and some are less affected with the breeding patterns, and some are more vulnerable. So overall, it's pretty hard to get this. In the end, it was helpful.